your mother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just the
Duo.
Of feathery brethren, weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Wulf and Zach kicking it cooler than
Two.
When still Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Wulf and Zach coming at you with stats and things flapping.
We are going to rip out the hearts of other podcasts. We are going to bite off their eyeballs. We're going to start every segment watching the scene from The Last of the Mohicans where the guy takes a bite out of the other guy's heart. We may not be good, but we're going to be nasty. We're going to reflect the blue-collar nature of this city. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Birds with Friends on a Wednesday afternoon. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, Marissa Dunn, here to talk about the first of two joint practices between the Eagles and the Miami Dolphins. But Zach, we begin with breaking news. We send it over right away to the stone cold newsman who has the latest on a Blockbuster trade by Howie Roseman, who does it again.
Well, respectfully, I wish I had the news. I haven't yet confirmed that this happened just as we were logging on, but according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, the Eagles have traded Ugo Amadi, who they acquired from Seattle, of course, in the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside trade, to the Tennessee Titans for a deal involving late 2024 draft picks. So you're imagining a swap, maybe the Eagles 7th for the Titans 6th, something of that. We will get it in a few minutes, hopefully.
Over there.
And you can essentially look at it this way. The Eagles deal J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and a draft pick for a Titans draft pick.
And I think this is a good, you have said before, like you like to think of the prism of the down roster guys through the Michael Dunn lens, the Marissa Dunn lens. Imagine you're the Amadi family. You get shipped from Seattle to Philly for a week, and then you go to Nashville. Tough life.
Well, yes and no, but if a team's trading you right now, they essentially they weren't going to keep you, so this could be better for you. And also in the Michael Dunn lens, if you're Josiah Scott or you're perhaps Jaquiski Tart, you're looking at this and saying, I should say Jaquiski Tart, not Jaquiski, Jaquiski Tart. I'm working on my pronunciations, as Bo knows. Then you will look at this and say maybe your shot of making the team goes up a bit.
It's kind of funny with Amadi. I mean, this is like, very, very into the details. But it's kind of funny because, I mean, they were going to cut Arcega-Whiteside anyway, so they got a guy.
Yes. But
But he was billed as like a nickel/safety. He was here for a week. He practiced twice at outside corner, never played either of those two positions, and then they sent him away. It's kind of funny.
Yes, my read on that is they wanted to see if he could play outside because he's shown that he could play nickel and slot, but clearly they weren't going to keep him. The other thing I'll add is we can sometimes kind of laugh at these like bottom of the roster trades, but every player matters in the sense that the Eagles once did this type of deal where they dealt Ryan Bates for Eli Harold. Now look who's the starting offensive lineman for the Buffalo Bills, right?
It was a bad trade.
They once did this type of deal where they traded David Fluellen for Cody Parkey. Cody Parkey gave them, Pro Bowl level kicking for a year.
Fluellen DeGeneres.
Yes, that too. Yes. So a point being that you could say, oh, it's an end of the roster guy, but every player matters, and you never know how their career is going to turn out.
Yeah, good stuff. Marissa, have you done the game of like, if we were going to get traded, where would we want to get traded to?
So Michael does ask me that, and I tell him that wherever he was able to be, whatever team wanted him, I'd be happy to go. So happy to be wherever, happy to be in Cleveland, just happy that he gets to continue following his dream. How was that answer?
Great answer.
Pretty good. That's
Great
a
answer.
good, like, if you were actually the player.
But I actually mean
answer.
that.
Yeah.
Like, I really do. Like, I was
play. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just messaging with Mike Sando. He was talking about Michael's game the other day, and I said it's wild that August 1st, 2020, we had the conversation that he thought football was done. So,
No pun
to be,
intended.
yeah. To be here,
You thought he was Morris.
Yeah. So I'm wherever he is, I'm happy to be there with him. So.
And man, was he dominant. I mean, we didn't do a post-game pod, but we talked about it in the live watch. He was kicking butt.
Yeah, I was very proud of him. I wish there was like a camera of me on me in the stands, because I was like, yeah, going at it.
As you should.
Get on, Jordan.
So yeah, I was very proud of him. You guys touch on obviously his first game at center, so got to be versatile as a backup offensive lineman. So he did great, and like he said, he's got to finish out strong and keep playing that way. But really happy to see. So
I need to admit that we are a little guilty of like the boy who cries wolf, because we make all these references to like Michael Dunn's the best lineman in the league. We always talk him up. But then in that game, he was really good. Like if he wasn't married to you and we were watching that game, we would have been, wow, 68. Who is this guy, right? So like Bo put up a tweet like Michael Dunn's the best player on the field, and a part of it could be like, I mean, like he's the husband of our producer. But that aside, he played really well in that game, so he should be proud. You should be proud. And the Browns should be proud, and the Browns should think about getting this guy into their lineup. That's my opinion.
Yeah, he did great, and great offensive line coach he's got there to always make sure he's prepared. So shout out to Bill Callahan.
Shout out to Bill and Callahan Auto Parts. All right, Zach, we are in Miami, as you know. You're Florida, your second home. I think your second favorite state in the union. You are so well regarded by the people of Florida that they flew you down first class, which I know that you knew that was going to come up. This is your place. Explain to me, tell the listeners, tell the viewers why it is that you and Florida are so simpatico.
I didn't know we were so simpatico. I tend to like wherever we go, but you have this like disdain for Florida, and every time
Sheila's the one with the real disdain for Florida. I just have ambivalence.
And every time we're here, I'm like, you know what? The weather's nice, the food's good. Like this isn't
I'm not sure
that
I would
bad.
call this weather nice.
I mean, it's
oppressive.
When we were at practice, it was hot. But
you got to drive everywhere.
This morning, I walked out for my fruit bowl and had a nice walk. And
did you get the fruit bowl because they didn't have any steak on the menu?
No, I got the steak last week because there's no fruit bowl on the menu. I had
Zach sent us a picture this morning of his beautiful fruit breakfast. So I'm glad that they have
like a little
on the menu
coconut
down there.
thing on top of there. Is that
a coconut granola? Yes,
yeah, nice.
Very nice.
So no, but I was watching.
So you're a big DeSantis guy.
I'm not talking politics here on the show.
We're talking fruit bowls.
Yes. But I was watching. So you asked that question to Marissa. I was watching practice next to another reporter who said that if he was a free agent player and he could sign anywhere, and you take away like family or any personal connections, his top choice would be Miami. And I said, you know what? I don't love the humidity, right? So there's warm weather places that might be above that. But my point, or his point rather, was that like the facilities are outstanding. The weather's nice. There's no state income tax. This guy said that they have cool uniforms. That wouldn't factor into my decision, but that would factor into his.
I do like their uniforms.
But in any event,
because I'm wearing Dolphins teal here.
Yes.
I told you yesterday. I got in a little early, went and walked to lunch, and the lunch spot was like outside this mall. I needed a few other shirts for the trip. Walked into the JC Penney. I'm looking for a deal. Checked out with 2 polos, and then I realized as I was checking out, I just got Dolphins colors. I got this shirt and this shirt. So I don't know. I was incepted by being in Miami. Maybe I like it a little more than I let on.
I'm just saying that if you're visiting for 2-3 days, there are worse places in the world to go than Miami. Like it's
Well, no one's
so.
arguing that.
But so when you say you're a big Florida guy, my point is that we were at the owners meetings and I was like, you know what, this isn't the worst place in the world, and you guys were like repulsed by the notion that someone didn't think this was the worst place in the world.
Well, that hotel was close to the worst thing in the world.
Well, not where that team was staying, or the
Where we were staying.
the owners were staying, where we were staying. Yes. And anyways, people are tuning in to hear us talk about. Oh, it is official, by the way. Here we go. Eagles have agreed to terms to, and not to doubt Adam Schefter, he's always right, but Eagles have agreed
Well,
to
he's not always
terms
right, but
to trade Ugo Amadi to the Titans. The teams will swap late round draft picks in 2024.
yeah, feels like a steal.
Well,
I mean,
here,
you're going to cut the
things
guy,
out there.
right?
Yes.
So,
Yep.
all right, Zach, let's get to practice, and then I think as we talk about practice and as we get through practice, I think it's time for us to really have these in-depth roster discussions that we touched on a little bit in the watch along on Sunday. But we've got a week left. It's closing arguments time for these guys. These two practices, the game on Saturday, and that's it. The roster then gets cut to 53 on Tuesday. Now, obviously, the starters are not going to play in that game on Saturday. And as to sort of refresh where we are for this practice in particular, this was a relatively sloppy practice to some degree. I would say that the Eagles were not great today, but the context is, they had the two practices in Cleveland, a quick turnaround to the game on Sunday. Then they fly back that night. They're in Philly for one day. Then they come down here, short week-ish. So this practice, there are some built-in excuses. Guys afterwards were talking about the heat playing a role. So, there are going to be, I'm sure Sirianni is going to say there's going to be adversity much worse than this come the regular season. It's a good test for us. But there are some reasons why they might not be their sharpest for these two practices, especially the one today, I think.
Well, you could say that, and I mean, we heard Tua say that. I think that, and there has to be some reality to that. They've been on planes and they're adjusting to the weather. Like they are humans, and there are conditions that it's not Madden players out there. That said, you have to give credit to Miami. I thought Miami was the better team on the field today, and I focused only on the defense, so I will defer to you on the offense. But if you just compare it to Cleveland last week, right? I mean, Miami was completing passes. Like the ball barely touched the ground. The Eagles did a good job stopping. Well. Yes, the Eagles did a good job stopping the run. I'll give them credit there. But I thought Tua had his way, and we'll get to this in a bit. I was really impressed with Tua today. The anticipation throws really jumped out to me. But overall,
you think he's so good he could be a 3-a?
I can't sell that one. But
better than a 2-a.
That was a bad joke. That was a bad joke.
Maybe even a 4-a.
And I thought that, look, I like their skill players. You and I were talking about the Dolphins on the drive over there. It's kind of ironic, by the way, that when we're on the podcast, we don't talk about football, but when we're in the car, we talk about football, right? So I said, I like this team more than
well,
my
people
favorite
in the chat
national
really
report.
loved that 4-a joke. Getting a lot of support for that one, so I appreciate the listeners.
So the passing. The Eagles secondary was not very good today. Now, they were missing Slay for part of the practice, Bradbury for team drills and 7-on-7. But they were not covering well, and the pass rush wasn't getting home enough. We will get into particulars, but that's my big picture view. And to answer your first question, I know I've rambled here. You can attribute it to the travel. You can attribute it to the weather. Miami was dealing with the same weather. They're used to it, I suppose. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But overall, more impressed with the Dolphins today than the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I am certainly able to be change my opinion on things after a small sample size. And one day I'm willing to be reactive and have have some recency bias. But yeah, I certainly feel better about the Dolphins today than I did yesterday. I thought too. I was focusing on the offense, and just to set the scene here for the listeners, this was not like we are used to with Eagles practices or even the joint practices with the Browns. When we get to sort of stand on the sidelines and watch practice from there. It's a different setup in Miami where there's just one set of stands and the media has to be sequestered in the stands. And so there's one field next to the stands, and then there's a far field that is sort of tougher to see. The offense was on the far field, so that's what I was watching. I was able to, I can tell the Eagles players still, even if I can't fully read the numbers, because I know who's going to be lining up where and what their body types are. It was harder for me to figure out who some of the Dolphins players were involved at times. But because I was watching that and also could see what was going on in the short field, I got to see a little bit of what was going on with the Eagles defense against the Dolphins offense. I agree. I feel, I thought Tua looked pretty good. He has this, there are a couple plays where it's like he's really throwing like a lofty ball up there, and you're like, oh, this ball's got to get picked or knocked down, and it just happens to be put in the precise spot where his guy can get it. So yeah, I agree with you. I think he looks better than I expected. And
as I was saying about the anticipation throws, I guess I'm doing it now, so I'm guilty of it. This impulse to compare Tua to Jalen Hurts, and it's been going on now for a long time, but because they were the two quarterbacks on the field, Jalen has a lot of strengths, and I've discussed those on this pod. I think in terms of like throwing to a spot as opposed to a player, Tua does a much better job of that, and that's a skill, right? There's anticipation throws there that clearly this is why Tua entered the lineup at Alabama, because he's not the biggest guy, right? He's not the fastest guy. It's his accuracy and his ability to make those types of throws, and that was on display today. And the other thing I'll say is I've seen Tyreek Hill, and I've never seen Tua in person until today. I've seen Tyreek Hill in games, but never in practice settings until today. He's special, right? Like, he is the ability. If you can't jam him at the line, you're not going to stop him, right? Though he just races by you, and he's so quick that he's a special player.
He dusted Darius Slay on that first one-on-one rep, and Slay sort of came up lane, but then he came back in, and I saw there was a second route they went up against each other, and Hill got the completion again, but I thought it was great coverage by Slay, and it was one of those one-on-one routes where Hill probably put on too many moves. Yep. Now he might be able to do that more than I get on Britton Covey sometimes for you're not going to actually get to run have 3 breaks in a route. Things happen much quicker than that in a game, but he is so fast that he sort of can do that. But I thought that one particular rep was still good coverage by Slay. But yeah, I'm not in the business of gassing up Tyreek Hill just to go on the record.
Okay. Again, we don't need to get into a Tyreek Hill discussion here. I'm
just saying, he's done enough things off the field that I'm not gonna be in the business of giving him flowers.
I'm not giving him flowers. I said he's a really good wide receiver.
He's a difficult player to cover.
So you kind of paint me into these positions with any player that's done something horrible off the field, that if I say anything about them as a football player, therefore I'm advocating for anything about them as a person.
I did not make this about you. Okay. I'm just saying if we're going to
talk, but you kind of juxtapose it.
Who has this history? I think it's worth mentioning. It's worth bringing up. We're not in the business of being league PR and brushing things off to the side and saying it happened. We don't have to talk about it anymore. This happened with Tyreek Hill. It's a part of his story. If we're going to talk about him, it belongs in the conversation, I think.
I get that. My point is that I'm like, this guy can beat you one-on-one, and you're like, well, I will never say anything nice about him. And so therefore you're juxtaposing it as if I am part of the league PR machine. No, I was at a football practice today. He ran past Darius Slay. Therefore I am conveying it to our audience.
I didn't say anything about you. I just said if we're going to talk about Tyreek Hill, let's allow for the fact that,
I get it.
Not a great guy.
Okay. I am not disputing that there.
Okay. Speaking of Tua, Zach, you let me in on a little secret, and I don't disagree with this. You said if you are ranking accents, Hawaiian top of the list, number one.
Yes, I like Hawaiian accents, and I thought that about Kamugruje Hill when he was here.
Mm.
I watched the Manti Te'o. I watched the Manti Te'o documentary. Yes,
That
the
was so
Hawaiian-
good, by the way. That-
yes, wasn't it?
Wild. Yeah.
Did it change your opinion, or or was your opinion already fortified?
Definitely I felt very bad for him, and I was a little disappointed in the journalism, not gonna lie. I think from our lens of things, like that was pretty interesting. So I mean it's easy to see how it all happened, but I think that was a big component of it. So I think they did a great job telling that story.
I was flabbergasted by how unremorseful Renoa was.
Yeah.
Right? Like that.
Yep. Changed his life,
Yeah.
Like,
and it changed my opinion on Te'o in that I don't want to say I didn't know enough about it. I do remember when that came out in January 13, that I thought, he had to be in on it, right?
yeah.
And then when you just hear the deaths, I was wow, like that was some contrived hoax there.
Yeah. I definitely would. It's a great watch on Netflix if you haven't seen it yet.
So what fills out the top three for you accent wise?
I don't know. I don't know. As I was listening to Tua, I like that Hawaiian accent. I've never been to Hawaii.
Great
and
place.
I've always wanted to go though. Yeah, I thought I was gonna be able to go. Oh, so Marcus Mariota, someone else who I like the accent, right? I thought I would have a chance to go in 2015 when Mariota was coming out, and the Eagles didn't end up trading for him, right? So, but that was my shot.
You could take Emily.
I could. I would love to. Maybe that'll be like a 10-year anniversary or 15
Or the mistress.
There's no mistress. Okay. All right. Let's get to.
I like the. I don't know if it's number one, but I like a South African accent. It's a fun one to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just saying.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. All right. Let's stick on the defense. Why don't we let's keep the conversation there. Some injuries today that are worth mentioning. New ones coming off of the game. Jack Anderson has a ribs injury. He did not practice. Josiah Scott was out, as was Josh Jobe. So those are some interesting ones to follow heading into cuts. Kelsey, Hargrave, and Greg Ward and Miles Sanders all still not practicing. James Bradbury elevated from not practicing to limited, and Grant Calcaterra graduating from limited to a full participant. We'll get to him because he had a pretty active day. But I think with Jobe and Josiah Scott and Jack Anderson, those are interesting ones as we head into a week away from cuts, because if you're not fully familiar, if you place a guy on injured reserve now, that means that he's out for the season. It means you save a roster spot, you get to control the guy, and he'll still be part of your program moving forward, but his season is over. If you want a guy to be a player this season, you have to carry him on the initial 53-man roster, and then you can immediately put him on injured reserve. He'll be eligible to return after 4 weeks, but that means you're going to have to cut somebody else to keep him on the roster. Now, this is where the Cravon LeBlanc stuff comes into play, where you can cut a veteran knowing that he won't go through waivers, and then you can re-sign him the following day if you're on that good terms with the player and the agent. But I think we were talking about this in the car. Those three guys, Jobe is the guy to me who now we don't know anything about the severity of these injuries. It's possible these are significant injuries and they are going to go on injured reserve anyway. But Jobe is the guy who strikes me as maybe you put him on IR now because you don't really think you're going to need him this season. Is he going to be better as a rookie than whoever the replacement level street corner would be? But you think he's got some long-term upside, so you keep him in the building. With Jack Anderson and Josiah Scott, I feel like their value is being available, and so it would make a little bit less sense to put them on injured reserve. You might want to carry them, but it also might mean that you release a guy like Jack Anderson and hope to bring him back if he clears waivers.
So I do have a question for the chat here and for Marissa as well. Okay. So Bo had an outstanding piece. I hope everyone read it, and I say that genuinely.
Very long.
On Tuesday, where he ranked the performance. He ranked the performance of every player in training camp, and I actually like the categories that he gave there. And in the Rick Lovato section, he talked specifically about those machinations that he just gave us, and he didn't mention the Cravon LeBlanc history, but the part about guaranteed contracts and that kind of thing. And Bo, as he might have mentioned once or twice, is the reigning winner of the 53-man roster. It is a competition.
3-time reigning.
It's a competition that Bo takes very seriously, that he's passionate about, and by him putting that in there, do you think he was kind of giving you a peek behind the curtain of his thinking, or do you think this was misdirection and this was gamesmanship and this was his attempt to try to get his competitors to have Lovato off the roster, but he's really not expecting this? So in the chat, put what you think. Marissa, what are your opinions?
I think, I mean, we know Bo's a takesman, right? So, but I think I think he's also a gamesman. So I think there might be some game theory behind that. I think he knows what he's doing. 3-time champ. I don't think, he's letting it slide.
I will tell you the truth. I would never cheat the readers. The valued subscribers of The Athletic, I give them my honest opinion. Also, that happened with Lovato last year in the middle of the season. They did it. And there's no edge to be gained on Lovato because none of the beat writers are actually going to leave Lovato off the projection. If they do that with him, it's going to be a bloodbath on that one for everybody. I don't think anybody's going to do that. So, but it's a thing that they could do. I'm trying to give you all there are a lot of little minor potholes in the roster projection. It's going to be difficult this year. I don't, because we're going to probably have to do, it's a Saturday night game. The rosters are cut on Tuesday, but in order to make it fair, we're probably going to have to set the beat writer submission deadline for like Sunday at noon.
Yeah, I'd say cuts start happening.
But it's going to be tough because that's like 2 full days when they can make a trade. Like, let's say they trade for a Kareem Hunt, or let's say they trade Sua Opeta for a 5th round pick. Like, it's going to be there's going to be some things where everybody doesn't exactly have all the full information. So, but I guess we're all on the same page. That's what matters. But it's not quite as easy A to B as it's been in past years when you go Thursday to Saturday cuts and there's less time.
I want to get back to practice, but I do need to push back there. You are correct. You never cheat the readers. I've said that, your stuff is always quality. You've only cheated the readers one time in my time at The Athletic, and that was November 19th, 2019. And you cheated the readers that day. And it was on this topic. There is a story headlined, Eagles sign long snapper Rick Lovato to 4-year extension. It's a picture of Rick Lovato shaking George W. Bush's hand. And the story is one sentence. Rick Lovato is the Eagles long snapper through 2023.
That was not cheating the readers. That is an in-joke. That is a reference for the readers. The people that joke is for a very specific audience, but for that audience, it is not cheating. I gave them what they wanted.
But then for I got to tell you, there's members of the Lovato family who are so excited. They're dear Rick. Very seldom get stories written about him. When he got signed, you saw these stories about the deli that his family had in New Jersey. Then you had the Dornbus stuff
with Lovato puns.
Yeah. So
I think they took one of them for his wedding hashtag. So you're welcome, Lovato family.
So they're so excited.
All you need is Lovato.
Yes. So he signs this. He signs this extension, and they click on the article, and it just says Rick Lovato is the Eagles long snapper through 2023. So. No, I bring that up in jest, but because we were on the Lovato topic. in any event, let's get back to practice.
All right, let's stick on the defense. Give me some of the big takeaways, some of the highlight plays that you saw. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, we got to take 2 breaks. So let's take our first break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Eagles' defense against Tua, Fora.
How well would you take care of your car if you had to keep the same one your entire life? That's how our brains work. So why don't we treat them that way? There are plenty of ways to support a healthy brain, like learning a new language or taking power naps. There's also BetterHelp Online Therapy. I know football season is so stressful for my work life and personal life, and it's so important to talk to someone to relieve stress. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat-only therapy sessions, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Our Birds with Friends listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/BWF. That's BETTERHELP.com/BWF. Our next sponsor is Masterclass. With Masterclass, you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn how to cook from Gordon Ramsay, improve your jump shot from Steph Curry, or even learn how to sing from Christina Aguilera. With over 100 classes from a range of world-class instructors, that thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. I recently checked out that Steph Curry class with my little nephew who loves basketball, and we were blown away. The coolest part is you could start and stop at any time and return back and watch all the videos. It's so cool, and he is loving it. I highly recommend you check it out. Get unlimited access to every masterclass, and as a Birds with Friends listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Go to masterclass.com/firstdown. That's masterclass.com/firstdown for 15% off masterclass.
Marissa, what a job.
I agree. Great ad reading. I agree.
Thank you. Shout out to all our great sponsors. We love them all.
1, 2, 3 times a lady. How do you feel about that?
Zach, he's asking you.
I'm deferring you on that one. I have no opinion on this joke anymore.
I feel like that is a good log line for the Birds with Friends experience. Okay. Zach, your
practice. You want to do the offense?
The Eagles. No, we've been talking about the defense. Let's stick on the defense, and then we'll get to the offense.
Perfect. Okay, this works for me. So I mentioned big picture takeaway. That was the pass defense did not look good there. We talked about the Slay Hill one-on-one with Bradbury limited. You saw Zach.
No Jalen Waddle for the Dolphins today. So just for the listeners who did not know that.
Highlight of practice, Hassan Reddick playing in this Joker role. I don't want to say blitz because he's a pass rusher. Pass rushed up the middle, and we spoke to Jeremiah Washburn last week. And Jeremiah Washburn, when he was said, "Is there anything that you've learned about him?" And he said,
Jeremiah was a ball coach.
He said Reddick is like quicker than they realized, right? And the acceleration on that pass rush. Tua barely had a chance to drop back. Reddick was right there. Great pass rush by Reddick. Now the very
he was
next
pretty
play,
active today as I was watching out of the corner of my eye. Yeah,
he was. Now the very next play, Reddick in that Joker roll had the drop, and he was kind of late getting over to the pass catcher in the flat. And look, this goes back to training camp number 1. Am I correct? Am I using that correctly? Nice. Training camp number 1, where we said wow, Reddick's dropping. And I get it, right? Like the football guys out there, I get it. There are going to be times when Hassan Reddick has to drop, but these 2 plays back to back kind of showed you Reddick has such a gift as a pass rusher, and that if he's dropping in the coverage, I don't think he's particularly good in that area. I know what Jonathan Gannon said. I don't think it's his strength. That is why he got changed from an inside linebacker and a linebacker to an edge rusher, was so he could rush. That's how the Eagles need to use him. So there are times when the matchup or the play itself will dictate it, but they need to get Reddick going toward the quarterback. Excuse me. So that jumps out.
Would you
Yeah.
agree? My view of what was going on with the Eagles defense was that the defensive line was pretty good today, pretty active. They seemed to stuff the run well, and there was pressure. I saw Josh Sweat had a couple pressures. Your boy, I saw with the second and third team, Kyron Johnson was pretty active in the backfield, but it was the secondary where they were sort of losing the battle. Now, to be fair, most of the time today in team drills with the first team offense, it was Zach McPherson and Mac McCain because Slay hobbled off.
Yep.
There's no Josh Jobe, and so you're pretty depleted there. But it did seem like that was what I saw. Is that what you saw?
Yeah. Now I'm not gonna crown the defensive line because I didn't think the pass rush was good enough. But this was one of these situations like last year where I don't necessarily put it on the pass rush. Like the ball was out quickly, right? There were receivers open. So the pass rush, probably was doing a good job, but Tua was so quick getting rid of the ball that it reminded you of some of those games last year where, the quarterback just had it out. And so that's what jumped out to me was the pass rush didn't. I wrote the pass rush wasn't consistent enough, but it was probably more of a function of the coverage being soft or, Tua throwing the ball quickly than it was the pass rush not beating the offensive lineman.
Any interesting depth chart notes with the defense to pass along?
No, so I you mentioned the guys with the ones there. They
What was the
weren't
safety
really
picture
rotating.
like after Epps and Anthony Harris with the twos? I guess they're down Josiah Scott, so they're down numbers. But
Yeah, Blankenship was in there. Yeah.
with the twos.
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Okay, it looked like because I thought I saw Jaquaski Tart in there with the twos and Kayvon Wallace and Blankenship. I think Tart was in there the whole time, and maybe Wallace and Blankenship were rotating. Jaquaski Tart is a very interesting player on the roster bubble. If you were going just by what he's done in practice and what he's like, where he's been on the depth chart, he would not be on the team. He's a vested veteran. I don't know if you want to guarantee his salary. However, if you sign Jaquaski Tart, you're probably caring more about what he showed on tape last year than
Sure.
what he's shown this summer. He's a 30-year-old player. Like, you sort of know what he is. I feel like he's going to be a difficult player to decide whether he's going to be on this team or not.
I would agree with you there. And I don't think he's played his way onto the roster. But that is a position where they're particularly weak. So maybe they just go with past performance. And it's not like they're guaranteeing that much salary, right? So if in week 5 they see it's like this, it could be like Eric Wilson last year, where they're like, all right, it's just not working out. And as far as top of the depth chart notes, Nakobe Dean was mixing in with the ones, right? He was not first up with the ones, but he did get in there with the ones. And Jonathan Gannon had a quote before practice about Davion Taylor where like everyone's competing for a chance to start. Well, no, that's not the case. But I think they have 3 linebackers that are going to be in the mix for those 2 spots. And Nakobe Dean's going to be expected to play this year.
I forgot to mention Sean Bradley among the injured players,
Yep.
but he has an illness. It's not an injury. So I wonder, do you think Davion Taylor is a stone cold lock to be on the roster?
I don't think he's a stone cold
He
lock,
was pretty
no.
bad in the game the other day.
Yeah, and he had a play today. I don't know if you saw it. It was like it should have been an interception,
Yes.
and like it whizzed right now. Look, I don't want to.
Stefan Wisniewski flew
No,
by his head.
I'm always careful to say like he should have caught that, right? Like we sometimes underrate like how snap these plays are, and so he's in coverage. He's worrying about his keys. The ball comes out quickly. Probably has some acceleration to it, or velocity to it rather, but still he could have and probably should have had the interception. Excuse me. So elsewhere on defense today, look, you mentioned the defensive line playing well. I'll give credit to multiple defensive tackles. First off, Marlon Tuiapulotu.
Tuiapulotu.
Yes. Marlon T. He stuffed a run. Did a real good job there. He's been having a good camp. Continued today. Milton Williams he chased down a run. You saw movement that was rare for an interior lineman, right? Like he went from the middle, from the line, basically to the sideline. chasing it down. That jumped out to me. And then, look, my guy, there might be some bias here to it, but Marvin Wilson, once again, in the backfield, clean up sack, like what I've seen from Marvin Wilson. So I thought you framed it well in that write-up we talked about. Similar to Deion Kane. He's like the Deion Kane of defensive linemen, where based on merit, should probably be on the team, but based on numbers, you just don't see how it's going to work out, but you never know.
I think there's a slight difference where, like, Deion Kane is 26. He's been in the league. The league sort of knows what he is. Whereas Marvin Wilson's 23. He's a second-year player. He is pretty good. The other problem for Marvin Wilson is that Kobe Smith has been pretty good this summer, another down roster defensive tackle. And so it's not quite mutually assured destruction, but it's like mutually assured not going to make the roster because of there's the other guy. Like, you can afford to probably cut Marvin Wilson because you know that it's unlikely both of those guys are going to get claimed. You're going to be able to keep at least one on the practice squad probably. So, but he has been good. Marissa, are you willing to tell? Is your Marvin Wilson story okay to tell on the podcast?
Yeah, I actually think I was going to ask Michael if it was okay to tell, but I'll just tell. No, so after joint practices, after joint practices, I saw him talking to someone, and I was like, oh wow, is he getting like chippy over there? Because that's like very unlike Michael. And after I was like, what was going on? He was like, oh, I was just telling Marvin Wilson, like, he's doing a great job. So he was with the Browns. Was it last offseason?
Last summer.
So he had some experience going up against him, and he said he is such an improved player since then, and he was very impressed with the battle that he was bringing both joint practices. So yeah, Michael was very impressed with what Marvin Wilson has done so far. So
what a veteran move!
I was like, that's so cute, Michael.
Going up to the young guy. Hey,
actually, it's interesting. You see all the chippiness in the joint practices, but there is a different dynamic. Jordan Davis was talking about this after practice today, where like there was a play where the offensive lineman on the Dolphins told him that like he knew that he was coming inside because of the way he was lined up. He sort of gave that away. And I think, I don't know if Michael says this too, but it is like, for the most part, when it's not chippy, they are using this as like, it's nice to have somebody else to go against and have this like, not whether if it's a discussion or not, but like this different sounding board, because these teams are not going to play each other in the regular season usually. Right. To have this opportunity to get each other better.
And a lot of guys know each other. Like Michael knew him, in the past. So I think that's kind of cool too, to see how a player's developed and, keep that friendly relationship, but also like try and make each other better is pretty cool. So, aside from the fights, that's the other side of it. It's nice to see.
Zach, can you name the former Eagles on the Dolphins roster?
I can.
Let's hear it.
River Craycraft.
Yes, nicely done. Okay. That's a tough one.
Because am I allowed to pull the roster in front of me, or do I have to do it?
Well, I mean, you sounded confident enough that you weren't going to need it, but now, if you need this to be an open book exam, that's fine.
Okay, I mean, I had it earlier because actually the Dolphins, credit to them, put out great game notes, and it was in there. They had college connections on these guys, so I really liked that. Eric Rowe, of course.
There's one more, I believe. Former Eagles captain, Zach.
Oh yeah. Duke Riley.
That's Riley.
Yep.
And how about the inverse?
Dolphins on the Eagles. Now, back to pronunciations. They were saying I don't know if it was TV or radio the other day. Sinnett.
Yeah, they were saying Sinnett.
Yes.
I thought it was Sinnett.
That's what I thought too. But they were saying Sinnett. So we need to
Sinnett to win it.
We need to get to the bottom of that one there, because I mean that was look for full. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here. We had dinner last night with Jimmy Kemsky, and there was a lot of Reed Sinnett conversation.
There was, a lot of Sinnett talk.
Yes. So you can tell how fun we are at parties.
What do you got going on over there, Marissa? You got a party?
So no, my mom and my aunt are here. They're sitting across the room.
Hey guys.
They were taking a nap, but
does she want to come on the pod, your mom?
They were taking a rest. They're actually coming from Wisconsin back to New Jersey, and so they went to go see some family. So they stopped midway in Cleveland. So yeah, maybe they'll take me out to dinner. Now that they interrupted this podcast. So
There you go.
So I believe Sinnett's the only player, but Michael Clay is a former assistant coach, as is Jeremiah Washburn, Max Gruder in the Eagles front office, former Dolphins executive, and Ted
what a
Rath.
pull.
Ted Rath, former. Yeah, this was all in their notes. So
Okay.
they look. Credit to the Dolphins. Okay, great game notes, great practice facility. Enjoyed. Look, I don't like being that far from the field.
It was a fun setup.
Fun setup, and in that heat, like having the shade above us.
It would have been tough to be out there.
Yeah,
real like first world sports writer problems, but it would have been tough.
Yes.
Now, Marissa, tell me what you think about this. This is the only practice I've been to where they serve beer. So 10 a.m.
Wow.
Should we tomorrow just get blitzed and see what that does to the practice report?
I think that would be comical. There's no way Zach would do that.
Is that an angle? Yeah, I mean Zach's gonna drive. So
I don't think we're permitted. It's actually in the New York Times rules that we cannot do that.
What? What if it's for a story? What if it's?
I'm just telling you,
it's an experiential journalism story.
It's in the company manual. By the way, you missed one former Eagle.
I watched practice and chugged a beer every time Britton Covey caught a pass. Read this.
Maybe so. You missed one former Eagle on the Dolphins.
I did?
Yes.
Okay.
If we're counting Craycraft, who's a former practice squatter, this guy's also this guy was a training camp guy.
Okay. Well, now I'm going to do the open
counts.
book test.
Okay.
This
one you should know. Famous training camp. A famous training camp.
Training
guy.
cramp.
Yes.
Michael Dieter is a funny name.
Michael played
Dynamite
with him.
German.
Cater Kahoo is a funny name.
You want me to give you the answer?
Oh, well, we didn't say Raheem Mostert. Oh, is that
That's
who you're
what I'm
talking
saying.
about?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yep.
Yeah, he's the Mostert worth the squeeze. It was not for the Eagles, and then he went on to have a good career. All right. Before we go to our second break, Zach, some questions in the chat about the Tua Jalen Hurts relationship, and I know that your boy Tua talked about it in his post practice press conference. What did he say?
Yeah, so he talked about his background with Jalen and said, Jalen's competitiveness jumped out. Jalen was one of those guys who need to be the first in everything, first in the classroom, first on the practice field, first in sprints.
First
He never liked to lose. He says he talks to all those guys. He didn't want to play it up like it was just Jalen, and then he said that he keeps in touch from time to time. You don't get the impression that they're the best friends in the world. But he said he hit him up last year before the Saints game to kind of get some Saints notes, and Jalen did it before a team that Tua had played against. So look, there's a loaded history there. I mean, Tua replaced him, right? So but still, it was good hearing Tua's perspective, and it was good seeing Tua in person.
Yeah, I mean, Tua turned Jalen Hurts from a number one a quarterback to a number two a quarterback.
You're still rolling with this joke. Yes.
I do think that, Jalen Hurts will talk after practice tomorrow. You remember when he was a rookie and he was asked about his loss in the high school championship game?
Yes.
And he was very salty about it. I imagine that he feels a similar way. He is not going to want to talk at all about being replaced by Tua or anything like that. But I also do like the background that during the regular season, quarterbacks are texting each other about, what can I do against the Saints? What's your book on these guys? That's fun stuff.
So I've used this expression with Jalen where he doesn't like to let you see him bleed, right? And it's a boxing impression, a boxing expression. But I look, this might be the reporter in me who enjoys narratives, but stuff like that's what makes you human, right? I'm more impressed with Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, as a person, by how he responded to being benched, then like that. So it could be like, why are you bringing up the most embarrassing? I don't want to say the most embarrassing, but like probably a humiliating moment in your life. You were benched at halftime of the national championship game, but the way he's responded, the fact that he helped them win the SEC championship next year, the fact that he stayed, he competed the following year, then he transfers to Oklahoma. He's a Heisman Trophy contender. He comes to the Eagles. He becomes a starter. Like that to me, everyone deals with something in their life, right? The way he responded, it says a lot about the character of a person, and so like I wouldn't run away from it. Now, I get it. Part of his personality is he doesn't like to let you see him bleed, but he also doesn't like to support like the general narrative, right? Like if it doesn't have to do with get better that day, that type of thing, then it's not on his mind. But yeah, I'm just saying I wouldn't run away from that. I will lean into that because my guess is like there's no way of knowing this, but if that doesn't happen to Jalen Hurts, then maybe he doesn't improve as a passer. Maybe he doesn't get to the point that he is now. Maybe he's just like a good college quarterback who, kind of, flames out. Who knows? But I think that's part of what makes him who he is.
Well said.
And I don't want to psychoanalyze, but yeah.
Well, a good transition into break, because on the other side we will talk about Jalen Hurts and the day that he had against a Dolphins defense, and I would say that it was not a very good day for Jalen Hurts and the offense.
Peloton isn't just about bikes and treadmills. It's a team of instructors ready to motivate you 24/7. With Peloton, there are literally thousands of classes ranging from strength training and yoga to running and boxing, which means Peloton is the perfect non-judgmental space to experiment with new types of movement at a level and pace that feel good for you. But what if you're super busy? It doesn't matter if you have 5 minutes or an hour. If you are an early riser or a fan of the evening burn, there's a Peloton class that fits into your day. Maybe you're looking for a 10-minute upper body stretch between calls or a 30-minute run before bed. Peloton is where you'll find what works for you on your schedule whenever that happens to be, at home, at the gym, or even outdoors. Oh, and did I mention that the music is absolutely iconic? In the mood to blast 90s hip hop? There's a class for that. Need to ugly cry to some power ballads after a bad day at work? There's a class for that. Looking for a Pride Month playlist that will get your blood pumping? There's a class for that. Whatever you're into, Peloton has the music that will get you moving. Motivation that moves you anytime, anywhere. Try the Peloton bike or tread risk-free for 30 days. Learn more at onepeloton.com. New members only. Terms apply.
All right, back on Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa. And Zach, today was an interesting day for the offense. From my vantage point, it was sort of like the offense performed like Jonathan Gannon wants opposing offenses to perform. If you follow, Elliott does keep track of the completions, and I think it was helpful today because by his notes, I think Jalen Hurts was like 22 of 27 or something like that. But everything was a check down. The Eagles had not much going at all down the field. They had nothing going on the ground game. The only big play, yardage-wise, in team drills was a bad throw by Jalen Hurts. Devontae Smith on play action was wide open down the middle of the field, and Jalen Hurts severely underthrew him to the point where Smith had to come back, and it caused the underthrown pass interference. So it was a good example of why you should throw it deep, but it was a bad throw by Jalen Hurts. A lot of checkdowns to running backs, not super comfortable in the pocket. The Dolphins defensive line did a pretty good job. The only play that was able to gain real yardage was something that I think the Eagles will keep in their back pocket, and it's something that probably makes Nick Sirianni feel good that the one thing they have to stop things from going downhill when things are going downhill on offense is an AJ Brown out route. It's so easy. It's easy money anytime, because if he's one-on-one and he's got that inside outside go, he's going to win. And it's been on the money, and that was helpful, but not a great day for the offense. Very sloppy, I thought. And I don't know if it was great coverage or if it was Jalen Hurts just being indecisive at the top of his route, but I thought it was one of the one of the poorer performances from the offense that I have seen this summer.
What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I mean, I think you bring up the same excuses that we did at the top. Sluggish, tough weather, all that stuff. The short trip from Cleveland. But I'm sure you have to give the Dolphins credit too. Jalen Phillips was very active. We got our first fight. Landon Dickerson, who has had I thought looked really good today, was great in one-on-ones. He's been really good over the past week. I think it's probably no accident that he's looked a lot better since not having to go up against Javon Hargrave. But he was pulling to the right on a run to the right, and it looked to me, it was tough to tell exactly what happened, but it looked to me that he pancaked Jalen Phillips, and then Phillips got up quickly and came over and gave a real forceful two-hand shove to Dickerson, and that started the fight. Mailata got involved, but I actually thought Mailata, for the most part, did a good job against Jalen Phillips, but Phillips was very active today. The Dolphins do a funny thing, or a cool thing. I kind of like it, where the previous practice's player of the day gets to wear like a special orange jersey the next practice, and then chooses the playlist. I don't know. I feel like some people might think that's like Johnny College, but I kind of like that. Give a little shout out. It seems I kind of like that. And the Dolphins reporters were saying this is the fourth time this summer that Jalen Phillips has gotten the orange jersey. A big player for them, coming off an 8.5 sack rookie season. What
would your playlist be?
Well, Zach asked me today on the ride to practice what I wanted to listen to, what kind of music I like. He gave it, he was driving, and I said, we're in Miami. Let's get a little Latin flavor. So we just did a Bad Bunny Spotify. It was good.
But if you were in charge, what would you listen to? If Nick Sirianni said you are the reporter of practice, so you get to choose the playlist, what would your playlist be?
Mount Joy, just be the Orange Blood LP.
Yes,
been bumping that record in the Wulf household. Jane's getting into it. Of course, for the people in Philadelphia, of course, remember September 10th. Mount Joy playing in Philadelphia, night before the Eagles' regular season opener. So what a weekend that'll be for you.
Yeah.
What would your playlist be?
Mine?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Marissa, what would your playlist be?
I don't know. Michael makes fun of my music choices. I'm stuck in my high school days. 2000s. 2010s, top hits. I like country music too, but that's not really pump up music. So I don't know. What about you, Zach? You're not really a big music in the car guy.
Yeah,
right?
it'd be like, the players would be
They'd be listening to Thomas Dimitrov podcast.
It'd be like, you're listening to Michael Barbero, and this is the Daily. Yes. Right. It'd be like that.
Tua drops back to pass, and he's asked whether he thinks GMs are underpaid in the league.
Yeah, we'd be listening to the Prof G podcast, Office Hour, or something like that. Yes.
What do you guys think of Mike McDaniel?
He didn't have a press conference today, but watching, look, he's look, I admit I'm in on Michael on Mike McDaniel. Credit to Dan Pompei, did a really good profile.
Is it Mike McDaniel or is it Daniel McMike?
It's Mike McDaniel. I thought Pompei did a really good piece on him before. I was in before based on what I had heard about him and then reading about him, and then I'm curious to see. But I am in on him, and I'm higher on the Dolphins, I say, than some others.
You've been smoking that Dolphin.
I will name names than national reporter Sheil Kapadia, right? I mean, Sheil's not as high on this team. Well, I don't want to put words in Sheil's mouth. I listened to a pod where Sheil didn't kind of see it.
Yeah, that one sounded a little bit like a ZB and the Wolf episode. People said.
But I don't think that their pass rush is as good as the Eagles, and their offensive line is not as good as the Eagles. And those are two very important factors.
That's how you want to build a team. Put your money where your mouth is.
But they're not bad at either of those spots. But I'm saying a lot of their team, it reminds me of the Eagles in that you say, look, they have all these pieces. If the quarterback just plays the way he can play, then they can make some noise.
Woodpecker, you rather have Tua or Jalen Hurts as your quarterback?
I honestly I haven't seen enough of Tua, so I'm going to reserve comment on that. I mean, based on last year, Jalen led his team or helped lead his team to the playoffs, right? So Tua hasn't done that, but Tua has a winning record as a starting quarterback. And again, like in terms of the way he passed the ball today, I liked what I saw, but I admit I did not watch much Dolphins last year, and actually a few of the games that I watched,
Scared to go on the record. Scared.
no, Jacoby Brissett was their quarterback. So it's hard for me to really give you like an informed opinion on that.
I'm not asking for an informed opinion. I'm asking for a hot take.
Well, I leave the hot takes to you, Bo.
I think I would like if it was just passing, I would rather have Tua. But I think for one season, if that's the question, I think Jalen Hurts gives you more of an advantage in the run game. I would probably take him, but that's sort of splitting the fence.
So the hard thing with me with Tua, look, I guess I would go Tua, because like he did this the past 2 years with a head coach who didn't seem to like him, right? And that's been documented. And he's been like pulled from the lineup randomly, and I think this is one of those guys, and he's won. He's been, I think he was like a 67% passer last year. That if you put him in a different scheme than as he is this year, maybe you'll see more of him. Now, as Rohit points out here, and you're absolutely correct, the contract situation is different. You can build a better team around Hurts.
In a real life. Who would you rather have in your franchise?
I'd rather have Jalen Hurts.
I would rather have Jalen Hurts because he's easier to move on from. Because if he's not the guy after this year, you cut bait. Whereas with Tua, he's a first-round pick. You're probably going to talk yourself into another season. However, if the exercise is just like you get one of these quarterbacks for this year, I think that's a different conversation. You can never dismiss the contract. I was talking to a reporter today who asked me, if you were the Eagles and like the contract wasn't involved, would you trade for Jimmy G? And I'm like, well, you can't just dismiss the contract. If the contract wasn't involved, I think a lot of teams would trade for Jimmy G, right? But the contract is what it is. Yeah, that's fair. Other notes, with the second team, I thought Gardner Minshew had a good day, one of his better days of practice. The Eagles' second team offensive line was very good today, gave him a lot of time. That second line was Dillard, Opeta, Cameron Tom, Coyote Awashika at right guard because there was no Jack Anderson today, and Jack Driscoll at right tackle. Driscoll looked better than he has at times over the summer. Coyote looked all right, although he struggled in one-on-ones. Grand Calcaterra, very active, especially with that second team offense.
Yeah, is he back?
This was his first full practice.
Are you saying he's back? Yeah, like this, he was who he was pre-injury.
Yeah, I mean he's not. We're not talking about like Michael Jordan coming back from baseball retirement, but he looked about as good as he did in the first week. I think there's little question that, especially with Tyree Jackson and Brett Toth being placed on PUP yesterday, that means they are out for the first 4 weeks. I think Calcaterra's spot on the roster is pretty safe. I think he's very easily their second best receiving tight end.
Are you still giving that draft pick a C? Or C?
Did I give it a C? Didn't I give it a C plus or a B minus or something?
C plus. I think you're in the C category. Yeah. Marissa is looking
I'll pull the receipts.
You weren't that much higher on it. That was the thing. You're talking like you gave it an A. Like I love this pick. This guy's great. No,
I actually did say
like a very minor difference in our grades.
I remember saying I love the player or like the player. There's variance with the injury history that's different than a different injury.
Bo gave him a C, Zach B minus.
Okay. You gave it a B minus. Like that's not a good grade. If you brought a B
what's
minus,
a better grade? So
be happy.
So look, there are I'm bad at pronunciations. I get that, but I think I have a degree of intelligence here to know that a B minus is better than a C, right? So
yeah, but you didn't. It's not like you loved the pick.
But a B, you're essentially saying, a B minus and C. There's not that much difference. Yes, there is. There is a
Okay,
difference.
but if this
If
was
you
like
came home with a
if this
C,
was
it's
like
different
a
than
if this was a binary, do you like this pick or not? We both didn't like the pick.
I mean, if you have a 2.0 GPA or you have a 2.67 GPA, which one's better?
Okay, I acknowledge that you liked it more than
Okay.
I did, but that doesn't mean that you
Okay.
should be going around puffing your chest that you gave it a B minus. Like
Marissa, in that piece that you brought
spiking
up,
the football
what was
over
Bo's
liking it
right up there?
over disliking it less.
He
What
said,
was Bo's right up?
I understand the impulse to add a tight end, even though the Eagles managed to be the most efficient offense in the league in 12 personnel last season, with Jack Stoll taking the lion's share of number 2 tight end reps.
Great insight.
But while I trust the doctors who say Calcaterra's concussion history is not a concern moving forward, this feels like it has a chance to backfire. I was partial to Michigan State's Connor Hayward among the tight ends on the board, even if he's more of an H-back profile. Leaving the secondary unaddressed made sense to some degree, as it may have given the Eagles a bargaining chip with undrafted free agents.
Wow, what great insight that is. That is exactly correct, because they signed 3 undrafted corners for significant money. Great job, great insight. And all reports out of Pittsburgh are that Connor Hayward is having a very good camp. So to me, that's a home run analysis.
Well, the Eagles don't have fullbacks in their offense, but okay. Yeah, and then what did I write about Grant Calcaterra? I'm sorry to put you on the spot here, Marissa.
Oh,
No, it's okay. I got it. I got the receipts pulled up, ready to go. A tight end with upside in the 6th round is often a sensible pick. However, there's major risk in taking someone whose concussion history prompted him to once retire from football. You worry about what would happen if that history continues in the NFL. He has a combination of production and traits, so at this point in the draft, there's a reason to take a swing. The risk variance is different than most situations, though.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think you would also agree, Zach, that our concerns about the pick are not something that was going to play out in the first month of his career.
Correct, but basically, I'm saying I like this player, okay, and you basically want them to take a 230-pound Jalen Samuel clone, basically, right?
Yeah, let's get a different type player in the offense. I thought that would be fun, and I think he can play tight end. But he is a tight end in Pittsburgh. That's what he's doing. They're not using him as a fullback, my understanding.
Yeah. I mean, you just wanted like a facsimile of Jalen Samuel.
Wow,
okay?
You've been waiting. You have been waiting. Would you like to explain that you have been waiting to use that word?
So I'm fine being self-deprecating. Okay. Bo and I were driving today and we were talking about something, and the word facsimile, I've written it often. I don't want to say often, but enough that like it's part of my writing lexicon. However, I've never said it in a conversation. Never in my life. And I said face smile. Okay.
Fake. I thought you said fake smile.
Fake smile. Yeah.
Which I think is a better. I think that's a better word. I think that is a better use of what the word means. But
and Bo was polite. I mean, Bo wasn't like, "You idiot, you don't know how to say." I mean, he was calm. He said, "I just want to tell you about the pronunciation. We got to work on the pronunciation of the word." And then I literally, when I got back, I went on to Google. You can do this thing where it pulls up the pronunciation, and then you say it, and it grades your pronunciation, and it tells you parts of the word you must improve upon. And so, if you can see, I sent this to Bo, okay, and it's the assessment of. I had a little it says you may have added oi in there to facsimile.
Oi, what you going on over there, love?
So in any event, I was waiting to get that in there. So
the other thing we needed to circle back to is something that was mentioned at the top of the pod. Marissa, how do you feel about being on a podcast with a man who flies first class?
Okay, so like you You brushed over this at the top, but you didn't go
For the
into
audio
detail.
listeners, Zach is now head
Rubbing
in
his
hand,
head.
despondent that this has come up.
Rolling his eyes.
Yeah.
Zach, I
ridiculous.
think I need some
Okay.
explanation here.
Go ahead.
There's no like. There's I
Wow.
I
On
literally
company dime too.
Oh.
they give complimentary upgrades. Okay.
Mhm.
He's got good status. He's got good status.
As you check in, you get complimentary upgrade. Actually, they changed this. American Airlines used to have a thing where you had 500-mile upgrades, and you had to put in a certain amount of 500-mile upgrades. They have since gotten rid of that, and now there's complimentary upgrades, and it's done based on availability, and then when there's X amount of seats available, there's a list of people based on, I guess, like miles you've flown or something of that nature, and
Words written.
we were a bigger plane, so there were more seats, and so I received an upgrade when I went to check in the other day, and as I was booking or as I was completing the check-in process, I turned to Emily and I say, I really hope there are no writers on this flight. Right, and
shout
I
out
was
to Jimmy
literally
Kemsky, who the minute we sat down at dinner alerted me to this. And I asked Zach if Jimmy hadn't told me, would Zach have told me? And he said, absolutely not.
absolutely not. So anyways, yeah. So
You got good status. There's nothing to be ashamed
How
of.
did you fly to Cleveland, Zach?
Oh, he flew into Cleveland, and boy, were his arms tired.
I
Were
do
you
the
first
same
class
seat
flying
at-
into Cleveland?
No, I was not. I was not. Actually, a different writer was for that flight. But
Ooh.
yeah, but it's the type of thing where I send Bo all my travel before I book it, so he literally sees like I've never booked a first class ticket in my life, but
Of course not.
Yeah.
you get
I got good
you
upgrades too,
upgraded.
but I'm
Okay.
United. Yeah. Yeah. It's always
Okay,
very
yeah.
nice
So,
when you get that.
Americans, the Philly, it's a hub for Philly, so most of my flights are American.
Right. Yeah.
I would like to come clean on something. I've been thinking about doing some self looking inside. I think I've been unfair to Zach about the
Ooh,
what do you
everything? Oh.
what do you recommend here?
Wow,
I
okay.
stand by you're a little too dogmatic about it in doing it everywhere you go, not taking situation into account. But listen, if I am I have trouble making decisions sometimes with the menu, knowing what I want, and I will ask the waiter or waitress, the server, like, I'm between this or this. What do you is there one that you recommend? I'll do that at a nice restaurant. Last night, Zach, it felt like Zach was too nervous to do it at dinner with me. He didn't want to do it. He was.
Yeah, I picked out what I wanted ahead of time.
He said, "I'm going to be an alpha. I'm not going to ask." And then so on his behalf, I asked just in case. Trying to be a good teammate. But I think there are. I don't mean to say that there are never times in which you should ask for advice. When you go to a nice restaurant, you want to know what they hang their hat on. My only thing is that I feel like it doesn't have to be 100% of the time.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you. It takes a big man to do that. I purposely said I'm not going to ask them. I'm not even going to look at the menu. Okay. I last night I looked ahead of time when we confirmed where we're going.
Like how you have opponents like circled on your calendar. Zach has had this restaurant circled on his calendar for a while, and it was very good.
What was it called?
Yes, thank you. It was called Pearl, and
PERL.
And so, yes, so I picked out what I wanted ahead of time, and the only thing I asked her was the difference between one thing and another thing. So,
what a server we had last night. You want to talk?
Oh,
you
yeah,
want to talk?
yeah.
You want to talk vocabulary? She was busting out words you never hear at a using synonyms that you don't usually hear at a restaurant. It's a fun experience.
I got to be honest. We haven't talked enough football on this podcast.
Okay, what do you want to talk about?
I don't know. We're practice.
What do you
today.
want me to
We
talk
more
about?
practice.
we have our notes that are going up on the Athletic. Do you want me to
Okay.
read through my one-on-one notes? Who won? Cam Jurgens lost a rep in one-on-ones. Okay. Christian Wilkins was chippy at one point. Jordan Mailata won in one-on-ones. So did Lane Johnson. You want my Cameron Tom take? What do you want?
How about this? Let's talk about the Browns game the other day. Any other takeaways from
Okay.
that game we should get into?
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed in Nakobe Dean. Not like in a big way, but he's. I think it's the same type of things that were negatives on his scouting report coming out. Like he's not the most explosive athlete, and he's not the biggest guy, so he needs to be the most instinctive, and he didn't seem like the most instinctive in that game. But I also like more than today's practice. I give the guys like Jordan Davis a little bit of a break, who were like active parts of the first team defense on Thursday and Friday at the joint practice, and then had to play on Sunday. I think they probably did have some tired legs. Jordan Davis also drew the difficult assignment of playing the best backup center in football. But I thought that defensive line performance, you would expect a second team defensive line with Jordan Davis and Milton Williams to be very good, and they got moved around off the ball. That was a little bit disappointing.
Good insight.
What
there.
about you?
What'd you think of the Devin Allen play? We haven't talked about that because we stopped. Yes.
Yeah, fun play. Good to see that speed show up. Even today in one-on-ones, that speed, like when he is like one-on-one with the guy, that speed doesn't show up. He's much faster, and I think they talked about this on the broadcast maybe, that like he's faster as he goes in those 100 meters. Like he's a closer, he's not a starter. And so I think that does sort of play out on the field. But there was nobody on him. He had room to run, and that safety made a bad read. It was a very good throw by Reed Sinnett. What's we talked about it last night. Why don't we circle back on the conversation we had with Jimmy about Sinnett? Okay. You don't think that the Eagles need to carry a third quarterback. Jimmy does. I'm on the fence.
Are you on the fence, or are you just not sharing because it's part of the?
I'm on the fence.
So I'm always open to changing my opinion, right? Like I think that's an important thing. I don't think it's a sign of strength to like say this is what I think and this is the only opinion, right? Like it's important to reconsider. And I'm reconsidering.
Except when it comes to draft grades of 6th round picks, you think those never are allowed to change.
No, I'm not saying those aren't allowed to change. I was just saying, I asked you, actually, the conversation started, have you changed your opinion of Calcaterra? Actually, that's literally how the conversation started. We have this all recorded.
Yes, if I could regrade that pick, I would give it a higher grade.
Okay. So, yeah, my personal view is that unless the third quarterback has a decent chance of becoming either a high-level backup for you or a potential starter, I'd rather just have a quarterback on practice squad and use that spot on the roster for something else. If you think that there's a higher than, let's say, 50% chance that he's a backup for you and 20% chance that he's a high-level, because a backup quarterback is different than like a high-level backup, right? Like I think Gardner Minshew is a high-level backup. If you are, if you're the number 2 quarterback, but you don't think your team can win games with you, then that's not a high-level backup. So if there's like a 20% chance that he can become a high-level backup, a 50% chance that he can become a backup, then it's worth keeping him as the number 3 guy. I am not getting he has a good arm. I agree with that. I didn't think he looked good in the Jets game. He showed some flashes.
I agree with that.
In the Browns game, and they're excuse me, I have a cough here. They're gonna have some decisions to make here, and I think sometimes I shouldn't say in Philly, all reporters can do this. You can become seduced by what you see. Like, I mean, the Eagles claimed him off waivers last year, right? But the Dolphins the Dolphins waived him. Before that,
Yeah, but after he was on the active roster. They
yeah,
called him
before
up
that,
on the active, yeah.
I mean, he didn't make Tampa Bay's team back in the year before that. He was not drafted. I mean, this is not a guy who like the league has said, we place a premium on him, right? So I would say that, yeah, it's a calculation they can make, but there's a philosophical, or I shouldn't say philosophical, a big picture argument to make about the third quarterback spot. The Eagles, as Jimmy has pointed out, have kept one more often than not. The Eagles were not going to keep one last year before the Minshew trade. They did not keep one in 2016. They did not plan on keeping one in 2019 when they wanted Sudfeld to win that. Well, actually, I take that back because they planned on Thorson being on the roster. So
yeah, I
take
think they have more often than not. Even last year, they added Sinnett after Flacco left. So if you play it out that they didn't get Minshew, they still would have claimed Sinnett. If Flacco was there.
Is Sinnett in year 3? And I ask this honestly, in year 3, do you still view him as a developmental guy, or by this point should you know whether he's a backup or not? Right, by year 3 of Nate Sudfeld's career, the Eagles thought he was good enough to be a backup.
If you're talking about league value, Nick Mullins, someone just traded a pick to get. Like, Nick Mullins was in camp with the Eagles and was awful. Sinnett's been better than him by a long shot. I think
Nick Mullins
philosophically,
yeah.
Okay, well, Sinnett hasn't had a chance to, and we saw Nick Mullins. So he was not good.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles do have a preference for keeping 3 quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
You run down the years. Last year it was Minshew and then Sinnett after Flacco left. The year before it was McCown and Sudfeld. Then you had Sudfeld with Foles and Wentz for 2 years. Sudfeld initially a practice squatter in 2017, but then they elevated him to the active roster. In 2016, it was Chase Daniel with Bradford and Wentz. I think they do prefer that. I think you have to consider the fact that Minshew is entering the final year of his rookie deal, and so you want to be able to have somebody who could potentially be a number 2 quarterback next year. I think odds are it's not going to be Sinnett. I think odds are they would probably try to find a veteran, but I don't know. I mean, Sinnett's been better in practice than he has been in the games. You're right. He was underwhelming in the Jets game. In the Browns game, he made that great throw to Devin Allen, and other than that, was not very good. I think it's a calculation of both the player and the position, but just like I think you say we tend to overrate what we see. I think we also tend to overrate the importance of the bottom roster guys at other positions.
For sure.
If Reed Sinnett has a 20% chance of being the backup quarterback next year, is that more important than Josh Jobe, who has a 20% chance of being a starting caliber corner? And that might not happen by next year either.
The quarterback's more important. Evaluation. I agree there. I agree. And look, if Reed Sinnett was a rookie, if he was a rookie or second-year player, I would say, I wouldn't say it's a no-brainer, but I would feel differently. I just think he's in his 3rd camp, right? Like at some point here, you have to say, where, is this who he is, or are there like significant more strides that he's going to take?
Well, I mean, if you're going to be bullish on him, year 1, it's his first year in Tampa. Okay. He doesn't make the team. Last year, he is in Miami, doesn't make the team originally, then gets called up from the practice squad, and then is waived from the active roster and gets claimed by the Eagles. So this is his first year being in the same place. He gets to go through the season on the practice squad knowing the offense, and he comes to training camp and he looks pretty good. So maybe there is more upside. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I agree too. And I agree on the Josh Jobe point. And the other thing I'll say is that with the practice squad rules and practice squad elevations, which is only 3 years old now, like it started in 2020 as a response to COVID. It makes it, I think
players can be elevated.
Yes. Yeah. So it really makes it such that the last 5-8 spots on your roster are developmental guys you don't want to lose, right? The way you kind
Right,
of
it's more about protecting them from the league.
Exactly, because you could say like, they need X just to field a roster. They need enough safeties or they need enough tight ends. But they could in theory go with like 3 running backs or 2 or even 2 running backs, let's say, and then add one. So or elevate one. And the other thing, and Howie Roseman knows this too. You're always gonna have a chance in week 2 and week 3 and week 4 to sign guys to the roster because there's invariably going to be injuries and you're going to use IR. So,
yeah. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like you're talking yourself into he should be on the roster.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I like to talk things out.
Okay.
I think that's, so this is going to sound like a take, but it's actually, it always bothers me when you hear something, like the old takes exposed or, when it's like you said something like X amount of years ago, so therefore, that's what you think. Yeah, I changed my mind, right? Like,
what the hell? This is what you just did to me about Grant Calcaterra.
No, I said, did you change your mind on it? That's not what I did.
No.
I said, did you change it?
And
your response,
we can't reframe what the intent of what you were saying. You were trying to gotcha.
Whoa.
Old takes exposed me on Grant Calcaterra.
1,000% was not trying to do that.
That's not true.
No, because your position. And we'll listen back to this. Your position was that, I didn't think that pick was that bad. I said, go back and read what you wrote. You were the opposite. You were revising something in the past.
Would you like to change your opinion on Grant Calcaterra now? Doesn't he look pretty good? That's pretty old takes exposed to me.
Not at all. Now, if you what you did was you edited the tweet, basically. Like you went back and you were like, I didn't think that.
No,
I think I gave him a B minus. I said
that analysis.
You said you thought you gave him a B minus.
You're looking at the headline. You're not reading the article. You're just taking the C grade. I didn't say anything bad about the player.
You said you preferred Casey Hayward. Connor Hayward, rather. Yeah, Connor Hayward.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. I stand by that. That was nothing against Calcaterra. You're acting like I buried the guy.
Marissa has her mother and her aunt there. We need to.
I'm loving this. I love when you guys
more football.
get
Let's
feisty.
talk some football.
We probably could have done this over the airplane talk, honestly. So.
No, the listeners needed to know that too, Zach.
Marissa, they did not need to know that. That was immaterial to the conversation.
So what do you think? Are we going to do the now we'll have another podcast tomorrow after practice.
Yes.
Are we going to do the full game play-by-play watch along on Saturday night? I think that's fun.
The full game is long. That's the thing. Like is that I mean maybe through halftime, through the third quarter. I don't know. We can figure out a time and then we can get the writing, right? Or maybe we just say 2 hours. We do 2 hours of it, right? You come on at, I mean, we could start at 7. We don't have to do the pregame.
Right.
We can start at 7 and we can go until 9 and then we wrap it up at 9 and then you and I start writing at 9 o'clock. But I think 2 hours of
that sounds good
of a live pod is good. Yeah. Okay.
I think you mean.
What did I say?
2 hours.
Oh gosh. All right. That's my cue.
All right. That'll do it for this episode of Birds with Friends.
I do have one last question. I'm sorry. I have one last question. And Marissa might need to cover her ears for this. Does anything you saw today change your opinion of the Cleveland Browns?
Yes.
Me too.
I feel worse about the Browns after watching practice today than I did yesterday.
I agree. And I get that the Browns were missing some guys and the Eagles probably weren't at top form today. But I left those Browns practices thinking like, I think the Eagles are the better team here. And this practice today, like there were parts of it that you didn't feel that way about the Eagles. So yeah, that's and we'll see how tomorrow goes. But I was saying that I think the Browns can be decent this year, and now I say, well, if Deshaun Watson's he's not out there as we know for 11 games, that changes the calc. I don't know if they're good enough without them.
And I would say specifically, I feel worse about the Browns defense. Well, I mean, obviously that was the side of the ball that I was watching, but the Browns defense, the Eagles moved the ball and did pretty well against the Browns defense. And even in like 7-on-7s when they were dominant at points, the Dolphins defense, pass rush much better. It seemed like the coverage was much stickier. So yes, I would say that did change my. I mean, one day it's a recency bias thing. It's a small sample size, but yeah, I would say that it moved the needle a little bit for me.
There you go. Okay.
All right.
And
of course, we got to pour one out for another example that the NFL is not a meritocracy. Elijah Riley getting released by the cowardly Joe Douglas.
Oh, froze.
We have an update.
Okay.
Elijah Riley has been claimed. Do you want to guess the team?
Whoa.
Oh, let's go. Okay. It's got to be a smart organization. Got to be towards the top of the waiver wire order.
It's got to be near the top of the waiver wire.
I could give you a hint if you. We've
Sure,
talked about this team in the Calcaterra discussion.
The Steelers?
Yes.
Oh yeah, baby. Mike Tomlin. He knows a baller. He knows a guy who can fight when he sees him. Let's go. You got Minka and you got Elijah. That is as good of a safety duo as there is in the league.
You got to tell Elijah. You got to message Elijah to tell Kenny that Michael says hello.
What if I message Kenny to tell Elijah that Bo says hello? That might be even better.
He would be scared. Yes.
Oh yeah, that is a team that knows talent when they see it. That's great. Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
I just saw it come across Twitter. So
I was hoping it would be the Commanders. I was hoping it would be the Commanders.
That would have been a tough situation. But they passed, obviously. So Good job.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for Elijah, Steel City, let's go. And for Marissa and Zach, I'm Bo. We will talk to you tomorrow after practice. Check out our practice report. And as always, and by the way, check out Zach's story from today, my story from yesterday. Zach takes a shot at me in there. In his story, he says that I was wrong and Lane Johnson has been the best player this summer. He is wrong because I've seen Lane Johnson give up some sacks. Lane Johnson might be the best player on the team, but this summer he has not been. And so Zach will issue a formal apology to me for that. But we can discuss that on tomorrow's podcast. So thank you for listening. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.